Today I'm going to walk you through all of the brushes in the Seint 3D line and break down what brush is best for what and how to use each one, as well as how to use these additional tools. Here's how to use our 4 main highlight and contour brushes. First up is the 3D brush. This brush is great for beginners who are just getting introduced to the 3D line. You'll want to use the larger end of the brush for applying your contour, just kind of where that contour goes. And when it comes to contouring the nose with this brush, you want to make sure that you squeeze the bristles like so you don't get too much product on the sides of your. You can also use this side for tapping on your blush shade and putting on a little bronzer if you got bronzer. Then you're going to use the more paintbrush looking side for applying your base foundation shade all over, and you can even use just the tip part of it to apply that concealer shade to the inner and outer corners of the eyes, and even for pressing in spot treating areas. Next, we have the buff brush. The buff brush is one of my most favorite brushes. It's great for medium to full coverage, and it does a really good job of providing a very smooth, filtered look. With the small side of the buff, I like to apply my contour all over, and then I'll use kind of that angled tip to contour the nose. And then I'll also use the small side to apply my color correcting shade or my base shade, and just kind of stipple that all over. And again, the small side for applying my concealer kind of right on that angled tip so I don't get too much product there. Then I will use the large side to apply my main or my base foundation shade, typically along my jawline, around my mouth, just larger areas of the face. And if you only got this brush to start, you can also use the larger end for just tapping on your blush and even tapping on a little bronzer. This is the detail brush. The detail brush is also one of my favorite brushes. It makes contouring so easy. I use the larger end of the detail brush to tap into my contour and apply like so. And I love to use the flat sides to tap into the contour again and just kind of stamp those lines down the sides of my nose. You can also use the butt end of this brush to buff in your foundation if that's something you want to do. As for the small side of the detail brush, I will use this for spot treating or color correcting in the beginning if it's a small area. I also use the small side for applying my concealer or brightening highlight to the inner and outer corners of the eyes and then just blending it out. Next, we have the blend brush. This brush is great for light to medium coverage, and it does it all. It's one of my favorite brushes for on the go. This side for applying my contour, and it does just what it says it does. It really does blend as you're applying. And once the contour is gone, I'll move on to my foundation shades and apply that. Switch to the small side, and I apply my concealer with the small side, and I'll do my nose contour with the small side as well. And I'll go back to the larger side and pop on my blush. It's my favorite brush to use with my clutch, which has all of my makeup in the back. Let's talk about our 2 finishing brushes. This is the blush and bronzer brush. I use the small side for applying my blush to the apples of my cheeks. You can also use the small side for applying your foundation. The larger side, of course, is great for your bronzer because it's so light and airy and it just picks up a very minimal amount of product. So I'll just kind of put that across the center of my forehead, bring it onto the top of my cheeks and down the neck. This is our powder brush. I use the more open end for setting in larger areas of the face. This side for kind of getting into those crease areas like so, and it's a little bit more dense, so it applies a little bit more powder to the face. Let's dive into the uses for our 4 smaller detail brushes. This is the Multitasker Brush. Let me show you how to use it. One way I like to use this brush is as a lip liner. So I'll just take my contour shade, outline around the lips, and then we're going to use the flat side to fill in the lips. You can also use the larger side to kind of paint all of your colors on. You've probably seen some of my videos doing that, and then blend everything together. Use this side to pack on glitters or shimmer shades from your eyeshadow palette, and you can just tap it onto the lid. Like the small side of this brush for eyeliner, you can use whatever contour shade you want as a liner. And then I also like to use it to spot treat acne at the end. So I'll just kind of go find those little spots that need some extra love and dot that on. Use this teeny tiny side to tap into your contour and dot on some little faux freckles if that's something you want to do. Next, we have the line brush, which is what I refer to as our brow brush. I use the spoolie side and go into our brow wax to really create that fluffy brow look. And I will use the angled side for filling in my brows with a darker contour shade, and then we just kind of buff that out. You can also use this side for a very easy winged liner or just a liner in general. And I even use the tip of this angled brush, tap it into my contour, and also do some faux freckles with it. Let's talk about the eyeshadow brush. I use the small side of the eyeshadow brush for my brightening shade on the inner corners of the eyes. And I also use it for kind of lining the lower lash line and the darker colors that I put in the crease. I use it to kind of paint on a little V there. You can also use the small side to even do some easy nose contouring and even lip lining. And the big fluffy side, of course, is there for blending purposes, making sure that eyeshadow is soft and blended. Next, we have the smudge brush. When I am dotting on my makeup, I love to use the more rounded side of the smudge brush to dot on my colors, and even the wide side for the foundation part. For flat rectangular side, I even use for like contouring around the lips, but you can also use it to just tap into any eyeshadow color and just kind of sweep that onto the lid. The more rounded side of the brush when it comes to eyeshadow, I use it for the same thing. I just want to do a quick darker shade on the outer edge. I'll use that small side for that. You can also use the rectangular side for nose contouring. This is really great at detailed nose contour. And then I love to use this brush for larger areas of spot treating in general. This is our perfector sponge, and this is what it looks like when it's dry, and this is what it looks like when it's damp. With the perfector sponge, you want to make sure that you run it under water and just keep squeezing and squeezing until it fills to double in size. Then you're going to squeeze it between a towel or a paper towel to remove any excess water. You definitely want to use a sponge, especially when you're starting out, because most oftentimes people use too much product in the beginning. To use the sponge, you're simply just going to very lightly dab your face. We are not pushing or pressing or pulling on the skin. Specifically, the small pointed side for under the eyes and the more large butt side for blending the blush and contour upwards. To thoroughly clean your sponge, I will put it in some water in a cup with a little soap and put it in the microwave so the water gets nice and hot. And then once it cools, I just kind of clean it and run it under my faucet until all that soap is gone and it's nice and clean. I do recommend replacing your sponges frequently. This is our amazing brush cleanser. This brush cleanser cleans, sanitizes, and conditions your brushes, and it has a 30-second dry time, so no soap and water with this, which is awesome. I recommend cleaning your brushes at least once a week. With this cleanser, you simply just spray it onto the bristle of your brush and swirl it around on a clean cloth or paper towel. This is our brush cleaning tile. It's great for using with eyeshadow when you're dipping between colors. You can just clean it off so you don't have excess color on your next application. You can snag most of these brushes in our brush collection, or you can buy them individually. I'll put more details in the description below.